Okay, so today we are deconstructing something pretty fascinating. It's a very specific social strategy that's been mapped out online, basically a detailed playbook for how to interact with people in one of the most common places we all go, a coffee shop. And that brings us to the big question, right? Can a social space, like a coffee shop, actually be gamed? The system we're about to walk through says yes. It treats the whole experience almost like a level in a video game, complete with its own set of rules, strategies, and clear objectives. So, what we're going to do in this explainer is look at one particular YouTuber's very methodical blueprint. Now, I want to be super clear about this. We're examining this as a kind of cultural artifact. It's a really interesting look at how social interaction is being systematized. This is not advice. Our goal here is just to understand the system itself. All right, so let's start with the foundation. Before you get into any of these specific tactics or lines, you have to understand the core principles that guide this entire approach. This whole thing is built on a few key ideas. First off, the source argues that a busy coffee shop is actually way better because more people means more opportunities to, well, interact. Second, the goal is explicitly social engagement, specifically what the source calls rizzing or gaming women. And finally, maybe the most important rule of them all, the entire game can't ever look like a game. Every single move has to seem totally natural. So how do you pull that off? How do you make sure the game doesn't look like a game? Well, the system leans on two big philosophical concepts that really dictate how you should act. It's all about blending in. The first idea is called congruence, and it's pretty simple. You just have to look like you belong there. Your clothes, your body language, everything about you should just scream, "I'm here to get a coffee," just like everybody else. The source even uses the example of someone showing up in scuba gear to show you what being completely incongruent would look like. And the second big idea is social calibration. So this goes beyond just how you look. It's about what you do. It means you follow the exact path of a normal customer. You walk in, you get in line, you order your drink, you wait for it, and then you either sit down or you leave. Every interaction has to happen inside this totally normal flow of events. Now, this is where it gets really interesting because the entire strategy flips depending on where you are. Inside the coffee shop, it is strictly an indirect approach. You start conversations for functional reasons, drawing on these older kind of theatrical systems like the mystery method. But the second you step outside, the strategy completely changes to a direct approach, modeled after something called the London day game model, which is all about being upfront and clearly stating your interest from the get-go. So this system takes the idea of strategy very, very literally. It actually breaks the coffee shop down into different geographic zones. And each zone has its own set of rules and its own recommended tactics. First up, we have Zone 1, the order line. The source says this is a fantastic spot for a first interaction. Why? Because it's a high-traffic area, and everyone is just kind of standing around waiting. And the type of interaction you're supposed to use here is what's called a functional opener. And get this is the exact script that's provided for that opener. You can see how it's directly tied to the thing you're both doing, waiting in line to order coffee. It's designed to be the super low-stakes, context-appropriate question that can just, naturally kick off a conversation. Okay, let's move on to Zone 2, which is the pickup area where you wait for your drink. The source actually calls this the best area in the whole coffee shop. And the logic is that people are standing still, they're waiting, so they're probably more open to a conversation than someone who's on the move. So for this zone, the script is a current emotional state opener. It's basically just a comment about the shared experience of waiting for your coffee. It's supposed to be relatable, and then hopefully lead into a more playful, observational kind of chat. Next up, we've got zones 3 and 4, which are the seating areas, both near and far. Now, these are considered secondary spots. And unlike the pickup area, the system says you should not make observational comments here. Instead, any approach has to be functional. It has to be based on a reason that seems legit. And this is a perfect illustration of what that functional opener looks like when someone is already sitting down. Asking for the Wi-Fi password, or in this case, about a spot near an outlet, it creates a totally plausible reason for interrupting them. And that's key to maintaining that social calibration we talked about earlier. So we've heard the term opener a few times now. Let's actually dig into one of the key tools from the playbook that's designed to turn that simple opening line into a real, actual conversation. This tool is called the cold read. Basically, it's a technique where you make a playful, almost imaginative guess about someone just based on their appearance or their vibe. The examples given are things like, you look like a backpacker, or you look like a struggling DJ. The whole point isn't to be right, it's to be interesting and to push the conversation beyond just, what did you order? And the last couple of zones, 5 and 6, are what are called the random areas. So basically anywhere someone is moving and the area near the restroom. These are labeled as the least preferred spots. If you do try to start an interaction here, it has to be an observational opener because a functional one just wouldn't make any sense. Okay, big shift here. Let's follow the strategy as it moves outside the coffee shop's doors. Because remember what we said earlier? This is where the entire methodology flips from being indirect to being very, very direct. And this is the script for that direct approach. It's called a full frontal opener, where you literally position yourself right in front of the person. There's zero ambiguity here. The interest is stated clearly and right away, which is a huge contrast to the subtle, functional approach that was used inside. And, that direct opener isn't just a one-off line. It's actually just the first step in a much bigger 5-part structure called the OVIC method. While the source doesn't break down every single step for us, this slide shows that simple hi is really just the doorway into a much more elaborate conversational playbook for street interactions. And that pretty much brings us to the end of this deconstruction. I mean, seeing a normal social space like a coffee shop broken down into zones and strategies and scripts, it's definitely something else. It kind of leaves us with one last question to chew on. What does the very existence of a social playbook like this reveal about the modern search for human connection?